Some seniors still believe that aging is synonymous with weakening. That after the age of 60, fatigue, sadness, and memory lapses are normal, almost mandatory. But what if I told you that, in just 8 days, your body could start reacting as if it had received a new kind of fuel? That there is a simple, cheap, and overlooked vitamin capable of transforming your energy, your mood, and even your immunity, without requiring you to change your entire life? The truth is that millions of elderly people are living with a silent deficiency of vitamin D3 and don't even realize it. And the worst part, many doctors don't even mention the subject. The result? People taking medications for pain, anxiety, insomnia, and depression, when the real problem could be the lack of a single nutrient. This isn't just a theory, it's a reality proven by studies and by those who have experienced this change firsthand. And if you think it's too late, pay attention. In less than a week, your body can start to recover. Energy comes back. The mind clears up. Pains decrease. And what once seemed to be just old age begins to disappear. But there's a detail almost no one talks about. This only works when D3 is used the right way, with the ideal dose, at the right time, and combined with another essential vitamin. So, if you're over 60, don't ignore this warning. Because from now on, you're going to understand exactly what happens in your body during the first 8 days of taking vitamin D3, and why this may be the best health investment you've ever made in your life. Most elderly people live in the dark, literally, when it comes to vitamin D3. And that's not just a figure of speech. As the years go by, time spent outdoors decreases, the skin loses its ability to absorb sunlight, and the body simply stops producing what it needs. It sounds simple, but here lies the danger. This deficiency is silent, treacherous, and affects everything from the immune system to the bones, without any clear warning at the beginning. Few people know that even living in a sunny country, it's still possible to have a severe deficiency. That's because sunscreen blocks production, so does window glass, and 15 minutes of sun on the face won't solve the problem. The synthesis of D3 requires real exposure on large areas of the body, without sunscreen. Something few seniors do, either out of fear of skin cancer or just convenience. The result? A body calling for help, and no one is listening. Symptoms appear so subtly that they confuse even doctors. Frequent fatigue, low immunity, fragile bones, constant sadness. All of this can be mistaken for normal aging. But it's not. These are warning signs that vitamin D3 is missing. Unfortunately, many people accept this discomfort as something normal in old age and go on with life ignoring the imbalance that is slowly draining their vitality. Routine exams don't always include a vitamin D measurement. And when they do, reference values vary from one lab to another. Many doctors don't even check for optimal levels. They just look to see if it's within the normal range. But normal can be mediocre. Recent studies suggest that optimal D3 levels are above 50 nanograms per milliliter. Anything below that and the body already starts to feel the effects, even without obvious symptoms. In addition, factors like obesity, the use of certain medications, and even intestinal diseases impair the absorption of the vitamin, even if the person gets sunlight. And the older you are, the higher the chance this happens. That's why relying solely on food or a few morning sun rays may not be enough. The reality is clear. Elderly people need an active strategy to ensure ideal levels of D3, not just hope that everything is fine. There's also a cultural issue. Many still think that taking vitamins is something for weak or delicate people. That mindset delays the health of those who need it most. A single daily pill can prevent falls, fractures, infections, and even depression in older adults. But for lack of guidance, a large part of the population grows old without ever hearing a serious explanation about this. There are no campaigns, no conversations, no priority. We need to look at vitamin D3 with the seriousness of a preventive medication. It's not just about getting stronger. It's about preserving autonomy, reducing serious risks, and ensuring quality of life after 60. Aging is already a challenge on its own. Facing it with a deficiency of an essential hormone, yes, D3 acts like a hormone, is like trying to climb a hill while carrying invisible stones. And this is just the beginning. Because as soon as this vitamin starts to be replenished in the body, unexpected things begin to happen. We're not just talking about preventing disease, but about real, felt transformations in mood, energy, skin, and strength. And the most curious part? Some of these changes can already be noticed in the first 24 hours after starting supplementation. It may sound like an exaggeration, but the body starts reacting to vitamin D3 within the first few hours. Even if you don't consciously feel it, a series of subtle adjustments begins to take place. Supplementation sends a clear signal to the body, we're fixing a deficit. And that signal triggers a silent reprogramming of cells that had been inactive, especially those in the immune system, which had been operating in energy-saving mode. One of the first areas to respond is the intestine. Vitamin D3 plays a direct role in the absorption of calcium and phosphorus, both essential for bones and muscles. Within the first 24 hours, the body begins to regulate the absorption of these minerals more efficiently. And in elderly people where intestinal absorption is no longer what it used to be, this change is more than welcome. It's strategic. It's like tuning the instrument before playing. The body needs to be ready to use nutrients properly. The brain is also affected, even if subtly. D3 influences the production of dopamine and serotonin, the neurotransmitters of well-being and motivation. In people with a deficiency, a slight improvement in mood can appear within the first 24 hours, even if just a little. It's not instant euphoria, but an emotional unlocking that starts to clear the mind and ease the emotional weight many seniors carry without understanding why. It's worth remembering that the body doesn't act like a switch, it acts like a dimmer. The light increases slowly. That's why the first reactions are often ignored or attributed to coincidence. But they're there. A slight improvement in sleep, less irritability, more energy upon waking. These are signs that the nervous system and the immune system have begun to leave the chronic alert state and are entering balance. In more sensitive elderly people, who were already showing serious deficiency symptoms, the relief may be more noticeable. There are reports of people who, in less than a day, slept better or woke up with less joint pain. A practical example? A 68-year-old woman reported that after starting supplementation in the morning, she was able to walk with less discomfort by the end of the afternoon, something that hadn't happened in months. At the cellular level, what happens is the activation of nuclear vitamin D receptors. It may sound technical, but think of it this way: D3 knocks on the DNA's door and says, "Wake up, we've got work to do." This activates genes related to cell regeneration, inflammation control, and immune defense. In other words, even if you don't clearly perceive it, your body is already beginning to repair itself, silently. It's also at this point that D3 begins to influence hormonal regulation. It directly affects the production of insulin, thyroid hormone, and even testosterone. Yes, this makes a huge difference in older adults. And while the full impact may take days or weeks, the signaling starts on the very first day. The body begins to exit the survival zone and enter a state of controlled recovery. But what really excites is what comes after the second or third day. Because if, within the first 24 hours, the body already begins to organize itself internally, in the following days these changes start to become visible on the outside. More energy, more lightness, and even a greater willingness to socialize. And that leads us to a point that few expect: the effects of D3 on mood and emotional vitality. By the third day, the body starts to give clearer signs that something is changing. That heavy feeling in the body upon waking, something many seniors accept as just part of aging, starts to fade. It's as if the body is breathing more freely. That happens because vitamin D3 helps reduce systemic inflammation levels, and this silent inflammation is one of the biggest causes of chronic fatigue in old age. In terms of mood, the change is subtle, but real. Many elderly people who live in a state of emotional apathy don't realize that this may be linked to D3 deficiency. And by the third day, it's common to notice a kind of mental clarity and emotional lightness. Small things, like being more patient or being able to talk without irritability, appear almost unnoticed. It's not magic, it's neurochemistry. The brain starts to come out of the fog. Vitamin D3 is directly linked to serotonin balance, the famous happiness hormone. When it kicks in, there's a natural adjustment in the nervous system. People who were dealing with negative thoughts, unexplained uneasiness, or even constant sadness start to feel a break. It's like the dark cloud opens to let a ray of sunshine through, not just in the sky, but inside the head. In practice, this can be reflected in simple actions: going for a walk with more enthusiasm, feeling like cooking, getting back to a forgotten hobby. A 72-year-old man said that after 3 days of taking D3, he felt the urge to organize his backyard, something he had been avoiding for months due to laziness and discouragement. Small actions like this show that the internal change begins to influence external life. A curious detail is that many seniors, previously resistant to the idea of taking supplements, begin to feel the desire to take better care of themselves. When the body starts responding positively, a sense of autonomy is born. And this reinforces something important. When there is progress, there is motivation. D3, often without people realizing, sparks that flame in many who had already lost faith in their own vitality. By the third day, another noticeable effect is the improvement in sleep quality. Many seniors live in broken cycles of light sleep, wake up tired, and spend the day with no energy. Vitamin D3 influences the hormonal axis that regulates the circadian rhythm. Because of this, deep sleep tends to increase, and the body starts to recover more efficiently during the night. This combination of better sleep, stable mood, and more energy results in something powerful, the feeling of well-being. And this well-being, even when mild, changes everything. It changes the way a person eats, moves, and communicates. It's as if the body says, "Now I can function like before." And for someone who spent years feeling the opposite, this is almost a rebirth. But this is still just the surface. Because as the body accumulates this new energy, the internal systems begin working more intensely. And starting on the fourth day, another pillar begins to show its signs strongly, the immune system. And that's when vitamin D3 reveals its most strategic and least discussed side. By the fourth day, the body finally begins to reveal its new internal configuration. One of the first systems to respond vigorously to the constant presence of vitamin D3 is the immune system. For many elderly individuals, this is a turning point. That feeling of getting sick for no reason, a cold here, an infection there, begins to be challenged. The body, once slow and vulnerable, starts to raise shields that had almost been forgotten. D3 acts directly on cells called macrophages, T lymphocytes, and NK cells, true internal soldiers that fight viruses, bacteria, and defective cells. In seniors, these soldiers are often asleep or insufficient in number. The proper presence of the vitamin is like a general entering the barracks and saying, "Time to get back to work." The immune response gains agility and precision. In some cases, elderly people undergoing recurring treatments for mild infections, like sinusitis or urinary tract infections, report a significant reduction in these episodes. Not by coincidence. Vitamin D3 helps regulate inflammation, strengthening the body's front line against invaders, without triggering that exaggerated response that also causes damage. It's like adjusting the aim of an army that was shooting in all directions. A real example, a 66-year-old woman with a history of recurring herpes started having episodes much more spaced out after beginning proper D3 supplementation. This shows that, beyond basic prevention, the immune system also gains strength to control latent viruses. And this is information rarely explained in clinics. Furthermore, gut immunity also reacts, and strongly. The intestine is where a large portion of the body's defense cells live. And when vitamin D3 goes into action, it improves the integrity of the intestinal barrier, strengthens the good bacteria, and makes it harder for harmful microorganisms to grow. It's protection from the inside out. And those who frequently suffer from diarrhea, gas, or bloating start to notice real changes. Another valuable detail, vitamin D3 reduces the production of inflammatory cytokines, substances that cause pain, fever, swelling, and even chronic fatigue. It's like turning down the volume of silent inflammation that affects so many elderly people. The result? Less pain, less heaviness in muscles and joints, more lightness for the body to function as it should. And this is where the positive cycle begins. Less inflammation means more mobility. More mobility means better circulation. Better circulation brings more energy. In just a few days, everything is connected. The person who used to feel fragile with every little cold now begins to regain confidence in their own body. And this changes not only their health, it changes behavior, mood, and self-esteem. But the real surprise is what comes next. The body not only defends itself better, it also begins to strengthen from the inside out. And that strengthening becomes visible in something the elderly greatly value, the return of muscular strength and the reduction of joint pain. And this is exactly what starts to happen between the 5th and 6th day. From the 5th day onward, the body starts to deliver results that once seemed unreachable for many seniors. More strength, less pain. And it's no coincidence. Vitamin D3 acts directly on skeletal muscles, influencing not just contraction, but also the regeneration of muscle fibers. In other words, it not only helps you move better, it contributes to restoring what was already deteriorating. Many elderly people report a curious sensation. It feels like my legs are lighter. That's because D3 improves the absorption of calcium and phosphorus, essential for muscle contraction and bone maintenance. It's like giving new fuel to the body's engine. A 69-year-old man said he managed to climb stairs without support for the first time in years, and he had only started supplementing with vitamin D3 less than a week earlier. And when we talk about joints, the impact is even more promising. Vitamin D3 has an anti-inflammatory effect, helping to reduce chronic joint pain and inflammation in the joints. It doesn't replace specific treatments for arthritis or arthrosis, but it complements them in a powerful way. With less pain, seniors move more. And with more movement, the body responds with more health. Vitamin D3 also regulates the entry of calcium into muscle cells. Without it, calcium can accumulate in the wrong places, like in joints, causing stiffness, instead of being properly absorbed by bones and muscles. This explains why, in just a few days, the sensation of a stiff body begins to give way to more fluid movements, as if the body were starting to function again like a well-oiled machine. Another important effect lies in balance. Studies show that vitamin D3 directly influences the function of postural muscles, those responsible for keeping the body upright and preventing falls. After 5 or 6 days of supplementation, many seniors feel more secure when walking. It's a confidence that comes not only from the mind, but from the body saying, "I'm steady, you can count on me." Additionally, the improvement in muscle strength is often accompanied by a small emotional euphoria. Imagine spending years believing that weakness was permanent, only to suddenly realize it wasn't your destiny. It was a consequence of a single nutrient deficiency. That rescues self-esteem, brings back the desire to walk, to dance, to live with more intensity. It's important to remember, this quick response doesn't happen in everyone, nor in the same way. But when it does, it shows how much the body was simply waiting for the right fuel to regain its potential. It's not a miracle, it's physiology. And when the body sees it's being cared for properly, it responds, with strength, with mobility, with life. But there's another place where this transformation happens even more surprisingly, in the mind. Because while the body is getting stronger, the brain is also waking up. And between the 6th and 7th day, deep changes begin to appear in memory, mental clarity, and even in the prevention of diseases like dementia. The mind is the last place where most people expect to see the effects of vitamin D3. But it is precisely there that a silent revolution begins between the 6th and 7th day. Studies show that D3 acts as a neuroprotector, that is, it helps protect brain cells against inflammation and degenerative processes. For those who already feel the first signs of memory lapses, this can be a breath of hope. Seniors with D3 deficiency often report mental confusion, difficulty concentrating, and the sensation of a foggy mind. This happens because the vitamin influences areas of the brain related to cognition, such as the hippocampus, the region directly related to memory. When D3 levels begin to normalize, there's an untangling of thoughts. It's like opening a window in a stuffy room. A real example, a 74-year-old woman who constantly forgot family members' names began to notice considerable improvement after a week of supplementation. She reported that she could remember daily tasks more clearly and even resumed doing crossword puzzles, a habit she had abandoned. Small victories like this show the power of the vitamin on the mind of someone who had lost hope. But the influence of D3 goes beyond immediate memory. It also modulates substances like serotonin and dopamine, which regulate mood, appetite, and motivation. That's why many elderly people report, in addition to cognitive improvement, a renewed desire to interact, to talk, to return to old habits. And this has a profound impact on quality of life. Vitamin D3 also helps prevent dementia and Alzheimer's. Research indicates that low levels of this vitamin are associated with a faster progression of such conditions. In other words, maintaining optimal levels of D3 can not only improve the present but also protect the future of the mind. And this is something that every person over 60 should know by now. It's worth remembering that the brain needs constant energy and an inflammation-free environment to function well. D3 plays a key role in this process, reducing oxidative damage that ages the brain. For many, this means returning to reading with pleasure, watching movies without forgetting the plot, and even remembering important dates without relying on sticky notes around the house. In addition, vitamin D3 helps improve deep sleep quality, which further enhances memory consolidation and reasoning. The mind rests better, organizes better, and responds better. Seniors who used to wake up several times at night or had trouble entering deep sleep begin to have more restorative nights and more productive days. And when body and mind begin to work in sync, something magical happens. The organism enters a state of complete regeneration. But attention, this regeneration needs balance. And here comes a fundamental point that many ignore. the correct dose of D3, the role of vitamin K2, and the essential precautions to ensure that all these benefits truly happen safely. Supplementing vitamin D3 is not just a matter of take it and you're done. There is an ideal dose, a necessary balance, and a piece that almost no one mentions: vitamin K2. Taking D3 without considering these factors can lead to unwanted effects, especially in the elderly. It's like filling a powerful car with the wrong fuel. The engine may start, but the damage comes with time. And the body is no place to test blind combinations. First, the dose. Most doctors consider it safe to supplement between 2,000 and 5,000 IU per day, depending on the degree of deficiency. Seniors with very low levels, below 20 nanograms per milliliter, may need higher doses for a controlled period. But here's the secret: nothing replaces a blood test to know precisely. Blind supplementation is just as dangerous as deficiency. And now, the famous K2. It is responsible for directing the calcium absorbed by D3 to the right places, the bones, and preventing it from ending up where it shouldn't, like in the arteries. That's right, taking D3 without K2 can, in the long term, increase the risk of vascular calcification. And in the elderly, that risk is real. K2 acts like a traffic guide for calcium. Without it, traffic gets chaotic and accidents happen. The most effective form of K2 is called -7 Malawian kwaches and is often sold in capsules combined with D3. This makes life easier and increases safety. A good supplement for seniors usually contains between 100 to 200 micrograms of K2 -7 Malawian kwaches along with 2,000 to 5,000 IU of D3. It's a smart combo that reduces risks and enhances the positive effects, not to mention it helps with adherence to treatment by being more practical. Another often neglected point: absorption. Vitamin D3 is fat-soluble, meaning it needs fat to be properly absorbed. This means taking D3 on an empty stomach or with black coffee may be useless. The ideal is to consume it along with a meal that includes some healthy fat, such as olive oil, eggs, or avocado. Without that, a good part of the dose may simply go to waste. It's also essential to monitor progress. After 8 to 12 weeks of supplementation, the ideal is to repeat the blood tests to see if the body is responding well. This prevents overdosing and ensures that the dose is adjusted if necessary. In some cases, vitamin D3 can accumulate, and although that's rare, it's always better to err on the side of caution than trust blindly. In specific situations, such as the use of anticoagulants, kidney problems, or a history of kidney stones, it is even more important to have medical supervision. Proper supplementation can do wonders, but done the wrong way, it can cause discomfort or avoidable risks. The body responds with gratitude when it is treated with precision. And in old age, that precision makes all the difference. When all of this is well aligned, dose, K2, diet, lab work, the results appear in a short time. And after 8 days of proper use, the body reaches a state where the benefits become evident even to those who didn't believe in it at first. But the question that remains is, what exactly changes after 8 days of D3 in someone over 60? That's what you're about to discover now. The 8th day arrives like a turning point. For many elderly people, it's the first time in years they feel their body functioning as it should. Energy returns. Thinking becomes clearer. Pains lessen. And that spark of motivation shows up like an old friend who had been away for too long. And it's not an illusion, it's the response of an organism that, after so long operating in survival mode, finally switches into living mode. From the 8th day on, the immune system is more active, the muscles more responsive, mood more stable, and sleep deeper. The routine begins to shift. Waking up early becomes easier, walking feels less tiring, memory responds better. Small activities that once felt exhausting now flow naturally. And this has an enormous emotional impact. The person begins to feel in control of their own life again. But it's important to understand that the 8th day is not the finish line. It's just the beginning. The body is more receptive, more adjusted, but it needs consistency to maintain this new state. Taking D3 for 1 week and thinking the job is done doesn't work. Maintaining these results depends on continuity, attention to dosage, presence of K2, dietary habits, and a routine of checkups. A common mistake is to stop using the vitamin as soon as the first signs of improvement appear. That's like putting out a fire and forgetting that there are still embers. For D3 to deliver lasting effects, it has to become a part of daily life, just like brushing your teeth or taking a shower. It's a habit of self-care that prevents, corrects, and transforms. And for anyone over 60, every detail counts. Maintaining these benefits also requires movement. The new energy that comes with D3 needs to be channeled. Light walks, stretching, and activities that challenge both body and mind help amplify everything. An active body responds better to the vitamin, and a challenged brain keeps its connections alive. It's a positive cycle that feeds itself, and it can be started with something as simple as 1 capsule a day. Many seniors report that, after 8 days, they feel more motivated to take care of other areas of life, eating better, sleeping well, nurturing spirituality, reconnecting with family. D3 is like the first domino piece. Once it falls, it pushes all the others toward well-being. And when a person realizes it's not too late to change, the transformation goes beyond the body. It reaches the soul. And this is also the moment when a common question arises: why didn't anyone tell me this before? And even though it's a painful question, it's a powerful one. It reveals a new awareness that health is not just the absence of disease, but the presence of energy, clarity, and autonomy. And all of that can be reclaimed, even after 60, when we start giving the body what it truly needs. Now that you know what happens in 8 days, imagine what could happen in 30 or in 90. The body is an intelligent machine, ready to respond when it receives the right signals. But what will truly determine whether all of this will continue, or be just a temporary improvement, lies in the next decisions you're going to make. Now that you understand what happens to your body after 8 days of vitamin D3, stop for a second and think, what's stopping you from starting today? Are you going to keep accepting that fatigue is just part of aging? Will you keep believing that forgetting names, waking up sore, and getting colds all the time is normal after 60? Or is it time to do things differently and live differently? You don't need to wait for a health scare to act. The decision is in your hands, and your body is ready to respond. But tell me, are you going to take that step, or are you going to let this information slip away like so many others you've heard and ignored? Comment below, do you already take vitamin D3? Have you noticed any difference? Or do you still have questions about the right dose and how to get started safely? Sharing your experience could help someone else, too. And if this content helped you in any way, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because here, you'll keep receiving clear, objective content that really makes a difference in the lives of people over 60. And turn on the bell, okay? Because in the next videos, you'll discover which supplements go best with D3, how to strengthen your bones, and even how to boost your memory naturally.